to the TheoristCast. My name is Lucid, and I'm with
Popbot.
And we are just finishing with Loki. Finally, at least in me, I am ready for this series to be done and us to move on from...
For the series or the season? You mean the season?
The season, I guess. Maybe, hopefully season 2 is a little better. But I have my own feelings about the fact that there's even a season 2. Ugh.
All right, go ahead. Kick it off then.
I mean, I like I said, I'm just gonna start with my feelings. My feelings about the ending of this season, and really, to me, it just feels too open ended as a season, as like a show, like as an ending. That I'm just not satisfied, right? Compared to Wanda and Captain Falcon, right? I'm gonna call this Captain Falcon. They have a clear lead into their further movies, right? WandaVision is clearly leading into Multiverse of Madness. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously, we're gonna pick up back with those two in Captain America 4, right? We know that Loki is supposed to be setting up both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Multiverse of Madness, but outside of that, it just felt like a season long trailer for two movies that we're not even gonna get maybe till next year, I think. And
so if you're looking at it from the theoretical point of view, I would agree with what you're saying. You're right as far as setting up for the movies that are not coming out next year. So, we're gonna throw that out there. As far as satisfaction, this episode was my favorite of the entire season, and I enjoyed the way that it ended. I know it's quote unquote a cliffhanger, but with the story that they told this season, there wasn't anywhere else they could go, and it is a reasonable conclusion to the season. I like that they set up the next season. I like that Sylvie ended being Sylvie. The whole love interest thing I'm not crazy about, but I believe it gives them many opportunities. Now you have the chance of seeing this entity, which was, this entity, when you get to this level of power, there's not a good or evil, right? Galactus isn't evil. He is a force of the universe. And I like that they were establishing that. And now you have the chance to meet someone with this power level who is going to be truly evil. So I enjoyed that that's where it ended. There are several things I didn't enjoy about this season. I feel like it was a lot of not much happening, and they tried to make an adventure of, there just should have been this episode.
Yeah,
but
like this could have been, just make this a 2-hour episode, and honestly, we could have fit a lot of like the important big points in there, and then boom, reset it up for the next one.
Exactly.
And don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
I loved Jonathan Majors. Majors, right? How do you say his last name?
Owen Wilson's character?
No, Kang's character.
Oh,
Jonathan Majors.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Majors.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. He was great in that few minutes he was on the screen.
So good.
I love that. And he has huge range, and he will obviously need to play multiple people. But that's not what this podcast is about, right? This is about
Hey, we'll give it to him. I don't mind taking a little bit of time with that, because that's the one, to me, that was like the one thing I enjoyed about it, outside of like the multiple Loki scene, which was just kind of fun, right? Like in terms of MCU, in terms of plot, in terms of drama, and he's not technically Kang in this one, right? He's they say like Conqueror or stuff like that to give him tease. I think he's meant to be more of I think it's Invictus. I can't remember if that's the actual name, but the final form of Kang, like the ultimate one that kind of despises the rest of them, because they're like, what the fuck you getting up into, right? You're fucking shit up for everybody. So this felt like that, right? That final form of, like, I am not good or evil. I am just here to maintain order. right? And
Yeah.
Immortus, I'm looking at it right now. Immortus. To have him, I think this was his Immortus form. In terms of, like, kind of his final, like, I am this, and just being like, I'm tired, I'm done, I've been in charge forever. You know what, at this point, if the rest of me take over, I don't even care. Right?
Well, he did care, but he gave them the opportunity to choose, and he enjoyed the show while they were choosing. Sylvie chose, right?
I think
Loki chose.
Yeah, but I think that's the point. Like, giving them the choice means it means he doesn't care. He's kind of like, I'm over it. Whatever happens, happens. I'm done.
I got you.
Right? So to me, it's like he no longer is concerned about maintaining peace, order, or whatever his vision of whatever it was. He was just done, right? He didn't care what was going to happen. He didn't care if his other versions came out, because if he did, then he'd just keep doing it. He would have continued to, he would have outsmarted them, right? So Sylvie's a little girl that grew up, an angry little girl that grew up, right? For a long time on the run, but it's like, there's no way she's smarter and she's gonna outsmart a guy who was already, according to the story, a super genius who then became a time god.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you're not gonna outplay that person. He let himself die. He was like, you know what? I'm just clocking out. Right? Which I loved. I loved about that that this was a god just kind of clocking out. And he's like, do whatever, I don't care anymore. And then the consequences that came from that of Sylvie you clearly can see she wasn't satisfied with her revenge. It didn't give her immense joy or, relief or catharsis, right? That you could tell in her face that it felt like a hollow victory.
Yeah. But he told her it would be that. He told her, either way, I win. Right? Either way, you're going to deal with a bunch of me, and some of them far more evil than me, or you continue my life's work, right? You kill me, you're going to deal with a bunch of me far more evil, or you continue my life's work. So, either way, I'm good. But, but right? And I like that he said, see you soon.
Yeah, with that little wink. And then me like, ooh, you messed up.
So what do I think is coming from this? I agree that they are setting up for the movies that will debut next year. We're not going to see another Loki until next year. I believe the other Loki is going to have nothing to do with what happened this season except for the fallout, because by the time those other movies come out, there will be a resolution to He Who Remains. So, but I look forward to that. Again, I agree with the way they did it. It was good storytelling in the final episode. The part of the story I didn't need or need to be theorizing about, and which threw me off, is why Loki and Sylvie need to be getting together. It was just unnecessary. It could have been done different ways. But it was very distracting. So if that was their goal to keep you guessing,
with just a ridiculous story.
Yeah.
Look over here.
That didn't need to be. Why is it always Loki's? That's also very interesting. Maybe they will reveal more on that, right? Why is he the only god of mischief, right? Why not the Norse version?
Right.
But we'll see.
Like what would have been made more sense to, or maybe I just would have preferred if it was the bromance between him and Mobius, right? Right, and the fact is that a Loki and a
really
Mobius.
Want to see that?
No, just like a Loki and a TVA agent bring down the TVA. That makes more sense than Loki kissing Loki bringing down the TVA, right? In fact, and even then, it makes what makes sense is really just, even his part only gives a little bit of leeway to it, where he was all like, oh no, your kissing or your longing look wasn't something that messed things up. No, to me, with him, he said it without saying it, that he basically sent the TVA after them, right? When they were on the planet, right? When they were about to die, he was all like, go there. And when they just didn't realize it. He was just like, bloop, 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 right? Set a little tracker on them. right? But that was the whole point of that conversation, where it was like none of this was happenstance. I've been watching this, and even more tells me, which then confuses me a bit more. I'm like, what is so special? Were you just intrigued? Were you just like that conversation, like, wow, a little weird, right? But wow, right? Was just at the point that is that why you're interested in Loki's? Because they're one of the few people that'll see themselves and be like, I'd hit that.
Yeah. I don't know.
And Kang's just got a weird kink for that or something. I don't know, right? Because it doesn't make sense why he chose them as opposed to, let's say, Mobius and Loki, right? Someone who's been a part of his system, that's believed in it, and someone who's been trying to destroy the system, right? That same system.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. I don't understand the Sylvie Loki storyline per se, with them, you know, of course, finding some way to care for each other or being attracted to each other. Why that was important. So,
and to be honest, a lot of people.
So maybe they will reveal more of that.
Honestly, in the LGBT community is not entirely pleased, or at least what I've heard of, like, from them, is that the fact that they made that little nod to the fact that Loki is bisexual, right? And they've even, I think Marvel even confirmed it, that he is, that he's their, you know, but then still, like, not even really explore that, right? At all, right?
Yeah, I mean,
like not even like a tag.
For me, it's, yeah. Again, you know, probably not the main slice of this topic. Those kind of things aren't important to me. We're supposed to be theorizing, and I guess I like a well-told story, and you don't need to shoehorn sexuality into a story when it doesn't apply. You know, it's like all of those movies in the past. We don't make movies like this anymore. I was actually watching a little bit of Face Off yesterday, and we don't make movies like that anymore. We try to, or we shouldn't, right? The best movies, there's no gratuitous nudity, right? There's no gratuitous violence. There's no sidekick black guy who's just, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. There's no sidekick black guy who's just yelling and screaming as the loud, funny black guy who uses a lot of curses. Like Face Off had all of that in it. And it was a worse movie for it. But it's a movie that made $125 million back when it was released, $250 million worldwide. But that's not what we want to watch now. And as far as, so sexuality didn't need, as far as what we've seen so far, need to be in this story at all, love and sexuality. So as far as the LGBTQ community being upset that they said he's been with men and women, and they didn't go further with that, I mean, that's not part of the story. We're talking about timelines.
I will argue that it could have been, like I said, if they went with that idea of Mobius and Loki, that could have that would have made that important. Because one, Loki, I think, like Norse mythology, if I believe, Loki is bisexual. Right, like that is a bisexual god, right? It's no like just straight, right? If I'm correct, I could be wrong, but I believe, like, you know, what I remember reading and hearing, like that is a nod to the actual mythology of the Loki god, right? That actually lines up with that. Now, to keep it from being to keep it from being just a throwaway shoehorn, because yes, in fact, it was just shoehorn in. But if it was made relevant, in fact, that yes, you know, there is maybe some sort of bromance, maybe more of an attraction, right, or like a fellowship with Mobius, that makes sense, right? That is like, oh, not he's like, it's not just that, you know, that makes more. It's like, oh, a TVA agent and a god of mischief. Wow. Fascinating, right? It makes sense, right? They're like, okay, right? This could throw his shit off, but also be the kind of pair that he might want to run the TVA. Someone who understands the importance of keeping time, but also someone that might be a bit chaotic. But what's the point of picking two chaotic motherfuckers, especially one that's pissed off, who's just mad at the whole shit, right? Like, what? I don't. You know, like to me, there's a whole lot you have to do in season 2 to make a lot of these plot holes, to me, make sense, right? Because otherwise, like I said, it just feels like it felt like a shoehorn in to just give Loki a fucking love interest. It's just be like, well, a chick? Why don't you get her, right? Yeah, we just, there's only really a few main women on the show. Why don't we just, like, have her be it, right? The other Loki? Yeah, okay, let's do that, right? Again, I could be wrong. I don't know the Loki comics like that to know if there was ever, like, a thing between him and Sylvie. And if that's the case, then, I have nothing to say. Because if it's from the comics, then, they're just doing what the comics do, right? Wouldn't be my first choice of things to go, since they have made it, they are quite comfortable changing things since it better suits the modern day and the story and the universe they've built. But, right, who am I to argue with backstory that's there, right? But if that's something that they've created, I feel like they could have been more interested with something new, right? If that Sylvie and Loki wasn't a thing in the comics, they could have done something more interesting than a Sylvie and Loki. Is what I'm saying. That sounds way back in the day thing.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. For sure. So, yeah, that's. I think you're right about this was a prequel to something that will be resolved next year. I'm fine with that, only based on the last season. Everything else was.
Oh, you mean last episode?
Yes, I'm sorry. Only based on the last episode. It's the one I enjoyed the most, or the one I enjoyed. Everything else was not fun.
Yeah, because
but that's
to me, there's also too many open ends. Like, are we going to go back to our old Mobius? Because last time we saw Renslayer fucked off, and he was just in a room standing there, like, well, you know what I mean? Like, there's not much resolution, right? I like the twist was cool, right? That twist of him being in like a new universe and nobody knows who he is was cool. Yeah. If we were getting another episode, right? Or if we were coming back like right as we talked about before, if this worked like regular television where it's like next season, but next season is only like really next season. Like we're just skipping, like we're taking a winter break or something, right? We'll be back in spring, right? But we know that the way the MCU, we know we're not going to get a Loki, as you said, like it's probably going to be completely disconnected or it's not going to pick up right here, because by the time we see Loki again, Ant-Man would have gone by, Multiverse of Madness would have went by, so we would have dealt with King at least once or twice in some form, right? So it becomes of what does Loki season 2 of all the shows to be like, this is the first one to get a season 2, like why a season 2, right? That makes sense. As far as they're going to tell the story, because again, like I'm saying, like I'm not interested in waiting like a year and a half, 2 years for the next Loki to come out, right? They have no plan, they have no release date, no plan. They're like, it's not coming anytime soon. So it's like, why should I care about it?
Of that stuff.
We've never been in control, but it's Marvel's, like, especially when you're looking back, you can see like how like Marvel's been doing this setup thing for a while, right? And they almost and whenever they're setting, and they'll set up things far from now, like the 10 rings guy, like in Iron Man 1, the guy that helped him in the cave, he was the one that told him about the 10 rings. We are now dealing with that 10 years later, right? 12 years later in Shang-Chi, right? We, officially really dealing with that. We had like the little fake out in Iron Man 3, but really dealing with something that was talked about in their very first movie, or very first official movie, if you don't count Incredible Hulk, which I count, because Thunderbolt Ross and Tony Stark are in that movie. They're the same actors, Robert Downey and the other dude. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, and it's Marvel Studios. So as far as I'm concerned, that's canon. Which I'll come back to that later, but they set these things up long in advance, right? But they're never on the nose about it, right? They mentioned the Mandarin, right? And honestly, one of the few things that they set up that long ago, like that's probably one of the few things where they gave a very kind of a hardish-ish setup, only to not pay it off for another like 6 years, right? And that was like when they did the after Iron Man 3, the short that we talked about with where the interviewer guy goes to Trevor Noah, not Trevor Noah, to Trevor, the guy that plays Trevor, it takes him, right? It takes that, and he's like, you know, the guy whose name you stole is very angry and he wants it back.
Yeah.
And that was like something.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, that's a good short. But I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
So it's just, and no one remembers that, right? We're one of the few people, like when I saw, I think I mentioned before, when like Matt Pat on Film Theory talked about it, he said it, and he's like, even the most diehard MCU person, I'm like, you know, I won't disagree with you. I mean, I must be a cut above them. I mean, not really, you know what I mean? Because I remember it. I've been waiting for that forever. The minute I saw 10 Rings, I was all like, oh, yes, I can't believe we're actually going back to this. You know, and the fact that you remember it, I was surprised. I was like, oh, you saw it too and you remember that, right? But it was something that you really only knew if you were on the internet all the way back then, right? Like on the YouTube, I watch YouTube video stuff, right? Or happened to watch it on their DVD. But if you had never watched it on the DVD cut or had caught it online, you probably never did catch that or knew about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that aren't there.
So, but it's still something where, you know, they didn't introduce an actor, they didn't introduce any huge plot points. We just knew that the Mandarin, all they told us was the Mandarin was real. And then that was it for like, what, 6 years, 7 years. That was it. The Mandarin's real. All right, and now we're finally getting him. But this for as much has been revealed, and as you said, like, things are gonna have to be resolved. What the hell is Loki 2 gonna be about? Loki season 2 gonna be about at that point? Loki trying to get back to his timeline. I don't even know what timeline this guy's from.
What do you mean you don't know?
Because remember, this is the Loki from the timeline of the Avengers jumping through time. Our Loki's dead. So 616 Loki is dead. This isn't even 616 Loki.
Well,
or timeline Loki, or past Loki, whatever.
Well, I guess he's the same world, different timelines, and there should only be one timeline for each universe, right? So there's only one 616 timeline.
Right. So this is our.
When it branches, it becomes another. So when it branches, it's not 616 anymore.
All right. So, but that was the thing. This guy technically was a branch that was pruned. Him escaping. So technically, while he came from our 616, if he didn't get pruned, this wouldn't be our 616 Loki. This wouldn't be our prime Loki. Our prime Loki still died.
616 Loki is dead. Yeah,
right?
616 Loki is dead.
So we don't even know this Loki's terminology because his universe never got to be. So his universe never got a designation, right? So it's like, who is this guy, and why do we care? What universe? Like, oh, let's go back to. So is he trying to get back to his universe with his Mobius?
Well, his interesting character, right?
His Sylvie. Sylvie's technically outside of the timeline, from what it seems like, right? So I don't even think he can really get back to Sylvie. I'm pretty sure that was a one-way ticket. You know, maybe he can get back to another timeline, like back to another verse. The not 616 unit. Wait, you're like, no, because wait, Mobius is 616 Mobius. Maybe. No, because he's a variant. He's a variant in our 616. See, that's it. It's so confusing, and I'm sure, like, if you write it down, you have a complicated diagram that might make sense. But then it's like, where do we go from here? Right?
Yeah. That's what I think they did masterfully in this season, and close it off with at least an episode that I like.
But again, I guess that's where our difference. Because to me, I don't, as someone who likes the theorists, who gets excited by like knowing where things are gonna go, I am not excited. I wasn't excited for Loki World Return. I might have been a tad excited. It might have helped if instead of the Loki World Return in season 2. Fucking, I knew that before you said it. Right? I mean, kinda. I was like, when it stamped it, I was all like, of course. I would at least a little bit of like maybe Renslayer walking out of a portal or something, right? Where the fuck did Renslayer go? What? All that big ass talk, and then just I'm gonna go find free will. That's it. That's it. You know what would have been great? Ooh, you know what? See, that's how you know I should have been writing this. God damn it. It would have been great if like the last Sizzler, she walked out of a portal, and then like another version of Jonathan Major, like his character turned around and was like, "Oh, I've been expecting you." Right? And you're just like, no, but dressed differently. So knowing that this isn't like our Immortus or whoever the one who remains, right? This is a different one. But to then officially lead into the comic book version of the fact that they have that one of the kings and her have a relationship, and that's kind of how you know who. Like in the comic, that was always kind of her. You know, they kind of always use Renslayer as kind of an identifier to know which king is our king, right? And not one of like the many different variants of him is the one that like if she's in love with him, that's the king that, you know, that's the original king, that's our king, right?
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
Or the one that we should be following. If she's trying to kill him, that's probably a different king. So if she had like walked out and been immediately introduced to, you know, what would be her variant of king, who then, you know, that make that great. Ooh, that leads into something like, then I can see what season 2 would be about. Right? I can be like, ooh, season 2 is gonna be about them trying to stop that king, because it turns out she ran into one of those messed up kings that he talked about, that like, you don't want to meet my variants. Turns out she met one of him. That was the one that she runs into and starts to follow and idolize, right? As the time.
Not necessary. Yeah, but yeah, I hear you. It's just not necessary because they're going to resolve that in the movies, and now Loki's going to have a different story.
I mean,
so.
if they resolve, like they can't do that without us seeing Renslayer, seeing Mobius, seeing that stuff. So that, because otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? At least in sort, like you can maybe do that stuff in comic books, right? But like, especially when it comes to TV, you can't really do these huge time jumps without and huge plot changes in between seasons, especially when you've left it because that's the thing. It would be different if they didn't leave a cliffhanger, right? Like I said, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did that very well, where, you know, they might have a cliffhanger, something bad might happen, or something might, you know, it might just end, like stories resolved, we know we're gonna keep on following this group, but they're not still dealing with issues. Maybe we might tease a little something, but overall this story's plot line has been resolved. And come the next season, we're gonna have another plot line that we might have teased about, or something completely different that you didn't realize was gonna happen, but it still follows the general timeline and story, right? If they're going to have 2 movies and a bunch of other, like, not even 2, 3 movies. 3 movies. We're gonna have Spider-Man in December, and that we've already confirmed that is a multiverse movie as well. 3 Spider-Men, or like 2 at least, right? With agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters are there. I'm assuming Fitz and Simmons, because again, they are the time hopping, universe hopping experts according to S.H.I.E.L.D. canon, right? They're the ones that you go to when you want to figure out what the hell's going on when it comes science wise and how to beat it. So when we have 3 major movies that are all going to be dealing with the multiverse, like how are we going to lead back into the story in a way that's just like, what the hell is going on, right? and like in a way that's not like, as I was telling you, like how anime does, where they'll spend entire episodes recapping what happened before. They won't even do like previously, but like, oh, what you missed and stuff like, and it's just like, because like I said, like, here's an example, like a great example, about the like stuff like that. Attack on Titan season 3 ended in a way that wasn't cliffhangery, right? It was in a way that, hell, if they ended it, I mean, it would suck, because it mean, like, you know, there's still a lot to answer, especially considering where the last season has gone.
Yeah, I haven't. So I'm not caught up on that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not trying to spoil. I'm not gonna spoil. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil. But in the way that it ended, there is a significant time jump between season 3 and season 4 that is not even apparent. Like, you have to watch it for a bit, and then you have to be like, why does everyone look different? Holy shit! Who are these kids? Oh my god! How long has it been? Right, and you start. But and I know I'm a bit off topic, but I just wanted, but it's just my point where this fact is, like, there wasn't a bunch of open-ended questions in season 3 of Attack on Titan, right? At the end of it, it was a great ending, and it was very even hopeful ending, or even like kind of like, ooh, there's a lot of answers that we're about to find out, but it wasn't left in a way that, like, when the new season came along, you weren't like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know. You didn't need a whole crazy amount of recap.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think we're going to be like that, though. I don't think that's what Marvel's going to deliver, because they're not in the habit of delivering that. I think they're going to tie up the story.
I mean, I would say that if
move
this...
to the next.
I would say that, yes, if this season wasn't so kind of, like you said, disappointing until the last episode. Right?
Yeah, I hear you.
It kind of gives... It doesn't
give
me much
hope. They pulled it out
hope.
At the end, though.
Sure.
For me, they pulled it out at the end.
To me, Jonathan Majors pulls it out at the end, really.
I mean, but that's Marvel. They wrote the story.
But
he's just the actor.
Sure, he's just the actor. But, like, who's to say that Iron Man would have been as good if they didn't, weren't like, we want Robert Downey Jr. He's got it. We're doing it, and he nailed it, right? Who's to say Iron Man or the MCU would have been that if it wasn't for his performance?
Same answer, though. This is all Fahey and the leadership team making decisions, and I think they're
making decisions
over
but
well.
It's a collaboration, right? It's the same way that's like me and
the actors are workers for the most part. They show up and they do their job.
That used to be the case. And I would say that, yes, long time ago. But especially back in the day when producers were just like, we're producers, we're the most important part of the thing. Where I'm like, you guys aren't even like around half the days, right? You guys aren't even around half the time doing anything. You just decide where money goes, right? That's a lot, That is a lot of producers. Now, sometimes we have Feige's, right, who are dedicated and care about the art and have great creative influence, but that's not the entire industry. So, my point is that, right?
I got you wanted something cleaner.
Not even cleaner, just better. I expected better, because like I was talking to Kay the other day, right? Or not even just yesterday, because she's rewatching all the movies, right? Because as someone who's does our subtitles, right, she does want to understand more about what we're talking about, because we are lots of times talking about very obscure topics or things that haven't been referenced to for over 10 years, right? So but she has never seen The Incredible Hulk, so she had no idea that it was canon. That, like, no, Iron Man's in that, right? That was the first time we've seen Robert Downey Jr., or like the second time. I can't remember which one came out first, but he was in the post credits, right? Thunderbolt Ross was all through that movie. He's still here. He's Senator Thunderbolt Ross now, right? So as far as I'm concerned, Incredible Hulk is canon, but it was not going. From what I read, it was not going to be a good movie at all, by any measure of the sense, if it wasn't for Edward Norton being a pain in the ass and trying to rewrite so much of the movie, right? That he was the one that gave the Hulk as much, like Bruce Banner. He's like, he really wanted to focus on the depth of Bruce Banner, right, and his struggle as a man that's carrying this monster. Right, and to me, like, his performance was amazing, right? I loved that Hulk. I still prefer his Hulk over Mark Ruffalo. I absolutely 100% prefer his Hulk. The movie might not have been great, but his Bruce Banner was troubled and was struggling to, like, just the scenes of him running through that I think it might have been Ecuador or something, right? Running through the village and while he's being chased, trying not to turn into the Hulk by trying to do his breathing techniques, was just like, we don't get that with this guy, right? We get a lot of talk. Up now he's Big Hulk. Okay, yeah, and I had to merge. Edward Norton probably would have been like, no, we need to show that struggle, right? You know, he lost people, right? He's got to show that struggle, like. So, you know, I'm not going to just say that the management and everyone, you know, all the top level people are making this and they're the ones that are making it good. That is very much a collaborative process, right? Especially as much as I look into it, it is very much a collaborative process between a lot of nerds. And you're finding more and more that these actors are just as much nerds as the people that are directing them, right? That they know these characters as well, right? They study them. They're like, oh, I really, you know, let's put this energy into that. So to me, Jonathan Majors does it because, you know, compared to the rest of the season, I see an actor that just chewed up the scene. Every time he was on scene, he just ate it. It was his show at that point, right? I would have preferred a whole show just about him than following Loki chasing Sylvie and making goo eyes and eventually like none of that was satisfying. None of that was really fun to watch. Right? Any chance we had to distract from that plot, that focus of Loki chasing Sylvie, that's when I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed Loki and Mobius. I enjoyed all the Lokis together, right? I enjoyed Kang interacting. I enjoyed Kang yelling at Sylvie, right? Calling her a hypocrite and a murderer, right? And it's like, but everything outside of that, it was okay. It was like, to me, it was like Thor Dark World. Like, sure, they made an adequate show. They made a passable show that looked good and it was okay to watch to me, right? But that, like I said, that last episode was my favorite episode because he killed it. He killed it. He made me invested in again, right? As soon as he killed him, I was like, all right, what are we doing now? I'm ready for this. Like, wait, we have 8 minutes left. How are we going to resolve this? Don't tell me there's going to be a season 2. Right? Like, I was like, as soon as he's dead, I was done. I was like, all right, cool. The interesting guy's dead. Can we move on now? Can we just go on to the next movie? What next we got next? We got Miss Marvel. We got Hawkeye. Cool, I'm about it. Like, I was just over this love story, right? And the love story took up so much of it that, to me, it overall brought the show down. And to me, who made that decision? The producers. Those people that you want to praise, those were the the people you want to praise are the people who made the decision to make the show so boring. And the people that made the show so good were the phenomenal actors who brought their creative talents to it. That's what
definitely made it more tolerable.
Right? But
yeah, they definitely made it more tolerable.
But like Sylvie, Renslayer, like I haven't seen them anything, and not to hate on them because, you know, just because they're women, they're not bad. Because Tara Strong, I love Tara Strong character. Her voice acting as Miss Minute, you know, she's of course phenomenal as always, fucking legend in voice acting. But like especially when the Renslayer and Sylvie were acting off of each other, I just was like, you guys needed to work on this a little bit more. Maybe fight a little bit less while you're doing it. Like, I'm not feeling it. Right? Like, maybe in time you guys will get better, but like right now I'm not feeling it. Right? But like, you know, and I hate to say that because as the women like, or even the black TV agent, great. She killed every time she's on it. She plays her character perfectly, even as like a super side character, right? Right? And especially when she learns the truth and her devastation for learning the truth, like, kills it. Renslayer, Sylvie, I was having a hard time finding their motivation and really believing their motivations, right? Outside of like, yes, she was taken as a child. I can get that on the surface, but I'm not getting it through your acting. I'm not getting Renslayer, your devotion to the TVA through your acting. Who I'm getting that from is that black girl, and I hate the fact that I don't remember her name. Her name, you know, isn't, you know, President. Yeah, even her number I can't because she goes by a number in the show.
B-15?
B-15, yes, B-15. Her devastation when she, like, her playing on Sylvie, she killed that scene, right? You know, just going from being like closing her eyes and then being like having to play a whole different character, like, you know, just devastated and then vengeful. Great. Mm-hmm. Right? Real,
yeah,
like, she
is also in
What, Lovecraft Country?
Lovecraft Country. Wumi. Wumi Mosaku.
All right, we'll put that up.
And she's also in His House. She's great.
Yeah, she's phenomenal actress. So that's what I mean. Like the actors to me saved the show. Like Marvel has always been good at getting actors to play the right actors to play these characters, right? Especially in a way that like sometimes X-Men and the other one, right? How Fox and Sony don't always feel like who thought to cast Topher Grace as Venom? Whose bright idea was that? Right? Like, nothing against Topher Grace. I liked him in the 70s show, but like, whose idea was that, right?
But he is not Eddie Brock.
Exactly, right? So it's like, why, like, so that's where they've always been really good at, right? All the way to the beginning, right? They, you listen to Feige's interviews, like, they were set on Robert Downey Jr. Was it a risk? Was it a big risk considering where he was at the time? But they were dead set on him. Right, and they're like, we think you're going to be the perfect Iron Man, and they're really the great kickoff to like permanent characters, right? Because outside of Terrence Howard, they don't switch off people. They don't switch people. You either stay your character, or you grow up and they cast you as someone else because you just couldn't physically grow up fast enough, right? Like Monica Rambeau and Ant-Man's daughter. Sasha Lang, I think. That's not Sasha Lang, but Lang's daughter, right? And how they grew up between this over the snap, right? So they had to be cast as different actors. They've only switched out two people, especially two major people: Terrence Howard and Edward Norton, for very, very specific reasons. They were not easy to work with, according to whoever they were working with. Now, that's subjective. We will see. We don't know. Because again, like, to me, the only reason Incredible Hulk was good was from Edward Norton's portrayal of Bruce Banner. That's what made it so good to me, right? And which is why to me, like, why I said I'm going back to it. I hope that this stuff with the what ifs, like, especially if what if is canon and it's meant to show that, like, no, this is the timeline breaking, right? This is canon timelines. These might not affect our 616 timelines, but these aren't just like stories. These are legit universes breaking off. I'm hoping that also means that things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are canon just in their own timeline, right? So that means that we can bring in someone from another time. We can bring in other characters like Fitzsimmons, Daisy, Sky. No, Daisy, because her name is Daisy, right? Daisy, Melinda May, and more, right? And also that the Incredible Hulk is still canon, right? And that we can get, and that's just the fanboy in me, just Mark Ruffalo versus Mark Ruffalo on Edward Norton, right? Just them acting off of each other. I want to see Edward Norton's Bruce Banner back into this world, especially considering how dark this world, the MCU is becoming compared to, right? I'm watching these old movies, and I'm like, man, we've come a long way. These are getting pretty dark at certain times, right? Conceptually, I think Edward Norton's rendition of him would be a great addition back into the world in some fashion, right? I mean, because there are already how many Hulks in actual comic books? Gray Hulk, Green Hulk, Red Hulk.
Yeah, quite a few.
Right, so I imagine
Immortal Hulk, Old Man Hulk. Yeah,
right, so I imagine there is a way they can bring in Edward Norton's Hulk, especially considering that Mark Ruffalo has now been turned into Smart Hulk, right? Or at least MCU versions of Smart Hulk. So it's like we still have space for a World Breaker Hulk and like I said, Immortal Hulk, Old Man Hulk, right? So we still have room for these Hulks that I think Edward Norton would be a great World Breaker Hulk, right? a Hulk that's mad and mad at the Avengers, right? And coming back to kick ass. So, that's just my thought. I think that would be interesting.
I got you.
But yeah,
it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, I think I just hope that's what they do with this whole multiverse thing. Otherwise, to me, it just seems like a weak preview into movies that we're not even gonna get this year, right? We're not even gonna see these movies this year. So by the time those movies even come by, like, it's gonna be how long? We're gonna have to have to watch Kang again. What happened? I've been to Loki. I'm calling it Kang because I'd much rather this be the Kang show over than the Loki show. But yeah, that's just my feelings on the ending of Loki and sort of where it's going, or where the MCU is kind of taking this, and at least where I kind of hope they take it, because otherwise I'm not necessarily sure where they're taking a lot of this outside of what we already know in terms of movies to be released. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where they're taking it also. I am satisfied where it ended. I think we're going to have a very different story once we see Loki again in his own series. So, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they're not, retreading old water and giving us something more interesting. Put Ragnarok director, put Waititi back on it, once he's done with Love and Thunder. Just give him Loki season 2. And then I'm sure it'll be great. But with that being said, I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode. Alright, this is TheoristCast. My name is Lucid.
And I'm PopBot.
And we'll see you guys next time.